product manager came to me convinced we should discontinue a product line. It's losing money, he said. He had the P&L, full cost allocation, and the line was negative. He was right by the fully loaded accounting. But when I stripped out the allocated overhead and looked at the contribution margin, price minus variable cost, the line was generating $4 million in cash that was covering shared fixed costs. Kill it, and you don't save $4 million, you lose $4 million in contribution. And the overhead is still going to exist. The decision would have been catastrophically wrong. Today, we're going to make sure that you never make that mistake. Hello, my name is Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin, the author of The Unfair Advantage and The Stagnation Assassin on Amazon.com. Today, on the Stagnation Assassin MBA, we're going to crack open cost accounting, specifically the difference between full cost and contribution margin. I'm going to tell you what they teach you in the program, what they leave out, and what you actually need to know if you're running a real business in the real world. This is one of the most operationally important and most misunderstood distinctions in management and management accounting, for that matter. Getting it wrong produces bad decisions on pricing, on product mix, on outsourcing, and on capacity, sometimes all four at once. So we're going to talk about the textbook version. What does the textbook say? And to be fair, as usual, it's not wrong. Cost accounting has two fundamental methodologies with two very different purposes. Absorption, which is full costing, allocates all manufacturing costs to products, both variable costs, which change with production volume, and fixed costs, which don't. Fixed overhead is allocated to each business unit based on some driver, typically machine hours or direct labor hours. The result is a fully loaded cost per unit that includes the share of rent and depreciation and supervision and other costs that don't actually vary with production volume. Now, variable margin, marginal costing, includes only variable costs in product costs, direct material, direct labor, variable overhead. Fixed costs are treated as period cost, expensed in the period incurred rather than allocated to products. Contribution margin is the output of variable costing. It's price minus variable cost. It represents the amount each unit sold contributes to covering the fixed costs and generating a profit. Now, GAAP requires absorption costing for external finance reporting. Management accounting, designed for internal decision making, should use contribution margin analysis for operational decisions. We'll talk about that. Let's look at the real world debrief. Where does this hold? Contribution margin analysis earns its tuition as the correct framework for 5 categories of operational decision. First, product mix decisions. Which product should we make more of? The answer is the products with the highest contribution margin per unit of binding constraint. Usually machine time, labor hours of floor space. This is the theory of constraints applied to to accounting. Second, pricing decisions. Should we accept a below list price order? If the price covers the variable costs and contributes positively to fixed cost coverage and is incremental, the answer may be yes, even if the full cost P&L shows a loss on the order. The contribution is real. The fixed cost allocation is accounting fiction. Third, make versus buy decisions. Should we outsource this component or this product? The right is the variable cost of production versus the outsourcing price. Fixed costs exist regardless of the decision are irrelevant to the decision. In make versus buy decisions, sunk fixed costs are irrelevant. The only number that matters is the variable cost you avoid versus the price you pay. Everything else is just accounting theater, which is the most boring kind. Fourth, customer profitability. Which customers are most valuable? Full cost allocation frequently produces misleading customer profitability pictures. Contribution analysis shows which customers are genuinely additive to fixed cost coverage. Fifth, shutdown decisions. Should we close a facility? Should we discontinue a product? If the product or facility generates positive contribution margin, then closing it is going to leave fixed costs stranded, unless you can eliminate the fixed cost too. Let's look at the operating room. Where does this break down? Here's where the professor sits down and all of us operators stand up. Cost accounting creates 3 operational failure modes that you need to know about. Failure 1, the absorption cost mythology. Full cost allocation makes some products look profitable that are not contributing to overhead coverage, and it makes other products look unprofitable that are. Operators who make strategic decisions based on fully allocated P&Ls without understanding the underlying variable cost structure are going to make systematic errors. Failure 2, the long run fixed cost reality. All fixed costs are variable in the long run. In the short run, a product with positive contribution margin should be retained, even if it shows a full cost loss. But if that situation persists long enough that the fixed costs become avoidable because you could actually close the factory or you could redeploy the equipment, the decision does change. Short run contribution analysis is correct in the short run only. Contribution margin tells you the right answer for the next 90 days. Full cost tells you the right answer for the next 5 years. Confuse the 2 timelines, you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions on both aspects. Failure 3, contribution analysis is misused to justify bad price often. We're covering variable costs, so any price above that as contribution is technically correct by the definition, but it is strategically dangerous. A business that consistently prices to contribution rather than full cost will eventually fail to cover their fixed cost in aggregate. Contribution analysis is for marginal incremental decisions, not pricing strategy overall. The operator's upgrade. So 2 rules for using cost accounting correctly. Rule 1, always know your variable cost structure, period. For every product line, for every customer segment, for every facility, what are the costs that disappear if you stop? That is your variable cost. The contribution margin is your strategic floor, not your target. Every price above that floor contributes to the business. Every price below it destroys the business. Rule 2, apply the right costing methodology to the right decision type. Short run operational decisions, whether to accept or reject an order, make versus buy, product mix, that kind of stuff. Contribution margin analysis. Long run strategic pricing strategy, product line investment, facility investment, full cost recovery analysis. Never mix the methodologies for the same decision. Stagnation Assassin verdict absolutely weaponized this. The distinction between full cost and contribution margin is not an accounting technicality. It is a decision framework that, applied correctly, protects you from some of the most and the most costly operational errors. Every operator needs to know both, understand when to use each, and be able to challenge a fully allocated P&L that is driving your boss to the wrong conclusion. That's the full cost versus contribution margin distinction, the accounting divide that changes every operational decision that it touches. For more on financial intelligence, operational decision making, grab the Unfair Advantage on Amazon, grab the Stagnation Assassin on Amazon, follow the Stagnation Assassin show, and check out more at toddhagopian.com. Before you kill a product line, know the contribution margin. The fully loaded P&L might be showing you accounting fiction, while contribution is real cash you can